Hello and welcome back to the Fish and Chips podcast. I'm your guest host, Vinegar, roommate to the previous guest, Salt, and a good friend of your usual host, Fish. Fish is here today. He's just taking a bit of a backseat. And we also have another guest, and I'll let her introduce herself.
Okay, so my name's Sophie, but they've given me the nickname of Spork.
You gave yourself the nickname. What are you talking about?
Oh, no, I didn't. You suggested it.
Just embrace it, Sophie. Don't
embrace
be
it.
embarrassed
Okay.
by the nickname Fork.
It does make
Spork.
me feel like I'm
No.
on Star Trek a little bit, so
That's fine.
I'll take
That's
it.
fine. Hey, a spork is an entirely useful and
It's
I would
literally
say
the three utensils in one. I mean, what could be more useful but also kind of useless at the same time as that? Because it's like not good at any of those jobs,
Yeah.
but it's like serviceable at all of them.
a jack of all trades,
Yeah.
master of none.
So,
Yeah.
thanks.
You're kind of like like a spoon with holes in it though, and a fork that's like not completely
Bent.
Yeah,
You know
a
when
word.
you go on holiday and you come back and you see your family after 2 weeks and nobody knows what to say to you?
Yeah,
And they're like, oh, hi. This is what that's like.
that's like me with my family all the time. So
Yeah, you're the
So
human
I go-
definition of a spork.
you're doing arts in college. How about that job sphere?
At
What-
least people know what
are you
arts
gonna do?
is.
What are you gonna do after this? Yeah, in fairness, so if you don't know, because obviously you don't know, these two guys, they both do international development in UCC. And actually, when people were first asking me what course you were doing, Bill, I literally could not remember
Could not.
at all. I was trying to describe what it is, and I'd be like, oh, it's kind of like if you wanted to be like a UN worker, you might do this course. Is that even true? Do you want to tell them about your course? Because
So
I have no idea about the
basically,
course.
I've been working in the college for the last 2 days, introducing our course to the stupid and naive people who were sitting the leaving cert in 2 years.
Oh.
Yeah, rough time. Anyway, how we've been introducing it is that it is essentially it's the kind of course you would undertake if you want to work with helping people through NGOs or through government organizations. If you see Irish Aid or Trócaire or Gorta or anything like that, a lot of those people are they're trained in similar things to what we study. So that's things like economics, but then also there's sometimes we both do a module called conflict and peace. So that studies conflict resolution and the history of war. And then we do loads of things. We do things like rural theory, policy and practice, which is an awful module, but it essentially it's all about the development of rural areas within Europe, Ireland, and then loosely Africa. We do a lot of different things.
Economics, introduction to development. There's a bit about gender and war, conflict and peace. It's quite an interesting topic if you're interested in the sociology and psychology behind development and how things work within development and in that whole sphere geographically.
Yeah, it's definitely a social science, because while we come out with a Bachelor of Science, we don't do almost any science subjects, and we're technically we come out with a Bachelor of Science. We're in the business school, and yet we're studying essentially arts modules, because there's a lot of social science and social commentary and social policy in our course. I think a lot of people in our course embarked on it because they want to help the world in some way, and I think that's definitely where both myself and Sophie see ourselves in the future. And in Sophie's case, she's already been doing that because she's the leader of the UN.
Yes, the leader of the UN. So do you want to tell us about your leadership role in the UN?
I am not a leader in the UN. A while back, the UN invited me to their General Assembly in New York, and they called me a youth leader for mobilizing Generation Zero Hunger, which is an honor to be named. It's a huge title, but the event didn't really live up to what I imagined it to. There were two young people at this young person's event. Neither of us were called on to speak. Then the event ended. We got a little pat on the head, and we left the room. So it was great to hear from everybody, but it wasn't really what they said it was going to be. It was a bit like a PR stunt, I think, anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that's how a lot of young people are used in different areas.
Yeah.
You know?
As PR tools, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think especially when it comes to things, although I love the SDGs, but the SDGs were made without the voice of young people. So if you don't know what the SDGs are, they're the Sustainable Development Goals. And they're basically goals for the world to strive towards for the next coming few years.
Yeah, their deadline is 2030, and I think it's legally binding that the countries have to meet their targets, but legally binding, you will, like, the only issue with legally binding is the word, well, who are they legally bound by? And so technically they're legally bound to the UN, but what is the UN really going to do? Because they're just made up of the countries that are not going to meet their targets.
Well,
yeah.
We hope they will.
Let's
be optimistic.
Yeah, the SDGs are a very optimistic goal. They're very lofty, but I'm not entirely sure if they're quite realistic.
What are the kind of goals that are a part of that?
My favourite one is zero hunger. But there's ones like global partnership and sustainable, responsible consumption and production.
Yeah.
And life underwater, and what are the other ones?
So there's 17 goals. They're like banner headlines, and essentially what those things mean are like, so zero hunger means that by 2030, these goals have basically set out that there shouldn't be anyone in the world starving, or well, specifically there shouldn't be anyone in the world dying of starvation.
Yeah.
The clean access to clean water is that there shouldn't be anyone in the world by 2030 who does not have access to clean water. Is it clean energy or is it sustainable energy? But that could,
clean energy.
Yeah, clean energy. So clean energy sets goals so that the meaningful steps will be made towards the reduction in fossil fuels, and meaningful steps made in turn with that to bring on clean renewable sources of energy.
And these will all have to be done by majority of young people as older generations head off. Nice way of putting it. And these are the people that have made these goals.
Mm-hmm.
And we are the people that will have to achieve these goals. So we're put in a strange position, I think, when it comes to the Sustainable Development Goals.
Yeah, we hold responsibility, but we're not given the means to complete them, because it's essentially out of a lot of our hands.
Yeah, like most of you probably won't even get a chance to even start doing stuff like that for another 5 or 6 years.
Exactly.
So then, by the time that you actually get a chance to start doing that, you'll only have 6 or 7 years to actually do it. Yeah. Have they met any of the targets yet, or?
God, no.
They haven't. Okay.
No.
Yeah.
We're a long way out.
There is good work being done to achieve them. It's not all negative.
Doom and gloom.
Yeah. And they are brilliant targets, because there's a lot of targets under each heading for people to achieve, or, I mean, even people in their daily lives can do some of the targets that are listed out in the SDGs. But overall, there is a lot of work that needs to be done.
But I think, coming back to your point about a PR stunt, I think that a lot of the media surrounding our work is quite controversial, because I think that media shapes how people think about things, and I think that people's inborn biases, well, not really inborn, but taught biases, I should say, because no one is born hating anything, but people are taught to hate, definitely.
I think it's cultural.
Yeah. And so because of the media, I think those taught biases and hatreds they're just exponentially, they grow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really think that the media plays a big role in the divisions and caused a lot of problems in the world we live in today.
Do you have an example of?
Well, say, especially in the development sphere, the media would have quite a negative impact on the way that people are seen, because there's a theory. It's called the white savior theory, and it's that the power to save the developing world hangs solely in that of the Western nations, or as it's loosely termed, the white man states. That's completely false, because every country in almost the history of the world has only reached its own potential from itself.
Mm-hmm.
People don't grow from receiving aid; they grow from developing grassroots.
Well, even if you look at Ireland, like, as in most of the development that has like taken place in Ireland has happened like since like the British left, like since we began ruling ourselves. And obviously, like, the North is different because it's still considered part of the UK. So it's kind of been a joint development thing between like the Republic and like Britain in terms of like it's like development, like, and its, you know, structure and stuff. But like most of the development that has happened in Ireland, like in the actual structures of like education and all that,
happened post 1920.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's one of those things where you need to give the countries like the power to do it themselves, but also the tools as well are necessary.
Exactly.
So like we were quite lucky that we weren't controlled by Britain, but we kind of like had a close relationship with them. So we were it was not like we were completely like left out to pasture like some countries have been since like the British have left, like maybe like India and other countries like that, like, which maybe haven't like developed in the way that Ireland has, because they have a lot of problems that we don't have, like you know, like overpopulation and the like, you know, whereas in Ireland we kind of, I don't know, we've been quite lucky, in fairness.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. But I think that that kind of stems from when we separated from Britain, we kind of did so on our own terms. But a lot of things that we study is that when African nations or generally nations in the global south separated from colonial rulers, often the only connections that they had with the global north was through their colonial powers.
Yeah.
So yes, they were no longer ruled by the crown or the monarchy or the government of that colonial power, but they were definitely ruled by the economic trends.
Yeah, no, that's what I mean. Like we have the means to improve ourselves because we're considered part of like the north or of the developed world. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Even as we were like left by Britain, we were kind of still considered to be part of the same sphere. Like,
it's because we have quite a close tie with America, and that's a relationship fostered through through years of hardship.
Yeah,
the famine. Let's not sugarcoat.
Immigration, man.
Yeah, exactly.
Immigration. Like, in fairness, we are quite lucky that we have roots all over the world.
Yeah,
like we do. Like, there are more Irish people.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely.
Irish people in places like Australia and America than there are in Ireland.
Yeah, the diaspora is what? It's something like 12 million people. So the diaspora,
12 million Irish people.
Yeah, the diaspora, if you don't know, is the coined term for the Irish people or people of Irish descent abroad who no longer live in Ireland due to economic or cultural or just their heritage.
Is that just people that were born in Ireland? Or
no, that includes like descendants. Yeah.
Oh, okay. That number is actually quite like a lot lower than I thought it would have been.
Well, it's not. It's only like direct descendants.
Oh, okay. So it's not like great grandfather, or is it?
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
Also, those numbers are like completely inaccurate.
Oh yeah, of course, man. It's almost impossible to gauge that. Like, like I'd say, like it would be because I mean, how good are the records that were kept 300 years ago in certain places? I mean, like it's kind of like with places like America with like illegal immigrants and stuff.
Yeah,
it's almost impossible to actually tell how many people are there because they don't keep records. Because people sneak into the country because of, famine and war and stuff, and it's and obviously they don't want to would you say that with a lot of like illegal immigrants in countries like that, would they want it to be known that they're there, and are they looking for
I would say that
asylum? or is it kind of that like it's almost too much of a risk to make yourself known? Like,
I think that the one of the biggest issues, and it's come out post the Obama administration, with say people who are illegally in the United States, is that if they were, so they might be see, people of it, this is another thing about media, because if you often if someone thinks of illegal immigrant, like the picture that is drawn up now in say the Trump administration is a Mexican crossing over a desert landscape,
exactly, yeah,
like with a backpack. That often is the depiction, but an illegal immigrant can be someone working in New York who doesn't have the correct visa.
Oh, yeah. Sure, man, yeah. Like, well, a lot of Irish people, like even people I know, have like stayed past their visas in countries like. So and it's like,
I think that a lot of the like, say, I'm using air quotes here, but illegal immigrants in America are honest, hardworking people who America would actually be better off if they just process their visa. And I'm not entirely sure of the correct terms, but like, is it naturalized or I don't know, giving them citizenship?
Naturalized citizens. Yeah. That's what it is. Like.
If
they were doing stuff like that with like DACA, but now they're getting rid of DACA.
Yeah,
but they want to get rid of it. And it's quite a strange thing because they want to deport people who were born in the United States or were brought there when they were children. And like, even though they are trying to make allowances for them, but it's quite mad that like something that you don't have control over.
Yeah.
Like, as in, like your parents bring you to a country illegally, or having you, like when they're illegal immigrants, could like push onto you when you your entire life would consider yourself to be American.
An American, and I think this comes down to some of the culture of America, and this is especially true in New York, and in Boston, which is that the people who immigrated first to America have always made it progressively harder for the next group of people to arrive. Always. You see that with the now so-called Irish Americans, Italian Americans. You see that with a lot of people who came from Eastern Europe. Like, a lot of these people just get treated absolutely terribly simply because they're not, like, air quotes again, but like natural US citizens.
Yeah.
Like, the only real natural US citizens, people who really belong and whose ancestors have lived nowhere else, are Native Americans.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those. It's kind of one of those funny things because it's like America is a country full of immigrants, and it's
exactly.
But man, it's not even just America. You can see it in countries like Ireland too. Is in like the way that like we treat our like Polish population, especially sometimes. Yeah. Like, just like, and it's not even like necessarily like really like racism that's really out there, but it's more kind of like, it's like small comments, but it makes a difference, like,
Yeah, well, I always knew that Ireland as a country has a deep attachment to racism.
Yeah.
But I've always saw it more in like the comments and in some small actions, or like things that you wouldn't pass heed for. And then when we got into this course, specifically one of our lecturers does a lot of work with the asylum seeker process and direct provision. And if you don't know what direct provision is, look it up, because it's a pretty horrific thing that the Irish government does and doesn't talk about at all. That's an entire podcast on itself. But
we were gonna make a documentary about that at one point, but then maybe someday. Who knows?
Soon, I'd say.
Yeah.
But the direct provision situation in Ireland is pretty grotesque. That's an emotional topic. See, our lecturer, he organizes Christmas parties and Easter parties for people who have been in the asylum seeker process or are currently in, because you can be in that process in essentially a care home with almost zero rights for up to 10 years in pretty dire conditions. And so these parties were just a way of getting people literally out of these centers and getting them active and just celebrating that, like, good things still do happen.
Yeah.
They're not really Christmas parties. They're like holiday seasons, because obviously they're non-denominational. And pretty much everyone's welcome. Which is something that, I don't know, as I talk about this at length in some of my essays, but as Ireland, as a nation whose population has a deep attachment to immigration
Yeah.
and to leaving our countries, how are we not more sympathetic to people who leave theirs?
I think it's one of those things where I think that like people that have problems in their own lives, sometimes they find it hard to see past those problems because they think, oh, like I'm not making as much money as I should be, like I'm struggling financially, so why should we be helping other people? Whereas in like I don't those two things aren't necessarily, as in they're not actually attached, as in letting people into the country in like the right way isn't attached to like how
I don't know.
people are struggling
I
economically
think it's like an ownership kind of thing.
over the country.
Yeah,
Or-
people feel like they own this part of land. This is theirs, you
Yeah.
know. They've lived here all their life. This is their country. They own it, you know. They've raised their family here.
Mhm.
What right do you have to be in my country?
Yeah.
And what people don't realize is that it's a piece of floating land in the middle of the sea. You don't have ownership over a piece of land, you know? It doesn't make logical sense to me for people to feel like they can just turn somebody away from a country that they share, it should be shared between everybody. I mean, way back, before all the land broke away to form different countries, it was just one
continent,
big,
yeah. Pangea, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Is that the big,
big
the
country.
big continent, yeah.
and
It was
people
just one
seem
massive
to have
continent.
forgotten that we were all nomads at one point.
Well, like it feels like a long time ago for people, as in like I know in terms of like our lifespan is only a blink of an eye, but for people that's all they know. And like also I think that it's a lot to do with like how time has passed. So like as in a lot of the immigration that took place in Ireland was like around the time of the famine, so and before that. And like there was like it happened afterwards too, but that was when like the mass immigration happened in Ireland, like. And it's kind of like the way that I kind of see it is like guy Tommy Riefenstahl is a Holocaust survivor. He makes like documentaries about like the Holocaust. His recent documentary, he made a documentary about the rise of the far right in Europe, and it's quite interesting because the point that he was kind of making is that people are forgetting that the Holocaust happened. Because in most families now there's no one at the dinner table that like lived through the Holocaust. So people are forgetting that happened. So now far right parties are using that to their advantage because they're using a lot of the same talking points that like Hitler used back in the day, but no one is making that connection because no one has lived through that. Like, and what he's trying to make sure is that people don't forget about the Holocaust and that it happened, because I kind of see it like he's also quite an advocate for like Syrians like coming to Europe, because he says that like the situation like he sees is quite similar to like the Jews before World War II trying to immigrate to like countries like America and Britain and being turned away.
Enduring.
Yeah, and obviously enduring as well too, but like beforehand he kind of like compares it to more too, because he kind of sees everything that's happening now as like the calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Actually I had the pleasure of meeting him and shaking his hand after, because he came to a showing in Cork of his documentary at a film festival. And I was just saying, because I hadn't really, I don't know, like I had, everyone sees like what's happening in Europe, at least a bit, like, some of the stuff that happens, but I never really thought about it too much. But then after that documentary, it really opened my eyes to kind of see that like young people are the future, and like they are the people that are going to make a difference. And he says that because in a lot of these kind of right-wing parties, they try to like recruit young people first, because they're the people as well that are the most distance from like the atrocities that happened in the 40s and stuff, and also they're the people that are going to be running the world, in the future. So he says that like by like informing young people about like the issues of the world and what's going on, you can equip them with the tools they need to change the world. But it's by not educating people is how you like the world goes back to the Dark Ages. And like that's the scary thing, is that like we're kind of in the balance right now. There's a lot of like political separation between the left and the right, like a lot of what's the word, like radicals on both sides. Like you can see it with like in America, like things like Antifa and then on the right, like the neo Nazis.
Mm.
It's like it's quite, I don't know. It's quite a scary thing. So like it's you know it's good that you're doing courses like that where you're getting like educated. You know.
But I
Yeah.
think young people can only properly change the world if they're given the platform to.
Yeah.
For example, in America, young people have only been given the platform in the media after the shootings
Yeah.
of young people, which is crazy. Why did it have to get to that extent, that horrific extent, for the media to just pick up on people and be like, oh yeah, young people actually have something interesting to say?
And then especially, like, even building on that point is we see it during those same I assume you're talking about the shootings in Florida.
Yes.
Yeah, so even during their talks, what a lot of people were saying was, oh, they're too young to talk about such topics.
Or have you seen the conspiracy theories about, oh, he's
Yes,
wearing an earpiece?
it's fake.
Doing, like,
Yeah, exactly.
stop it.
Even beyond that, there's another conspiracy where there was no shooting at all, and it's all about removing gun rights. And I think that that's another big issue.
We're rolling our eyes.
Yeah, rolling eyes are around the table, by the way.
Makes me laugh.
Yeah, like it's scary because it makes you laugh, and then you realize that it's happening to people on almost a daily basis. And it's weird because even in this conversation, we've been drawn into talking about the North almost exclusively. And we haven't talked about the global South at all, which is kind of where we wanted to go with this. But because the media is so prevalent on the global North, I don't think anyone can see the wood for the trees. That is, that there are larger issues at play. But obviously, all issues are valid because if you don't start somewhere, when the world's just going to go to shit again.
Yeah, it's just going to go full circle.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of the North, they just don't want to acknowledge the global South because then it means that they have to help or they have to do something about it. For example, in Myanmar, they're not calling it a genocide because then the countries would have to step up and help.
To explain that, just as a brief side note, genocide is a loaded term when it comes to the UN because genocide, like famine, is a actionable word. So if someone calls or initiates the thought that something is a genocide or a famine, then the UN are obligated by their treaties to act, and they have to act. And so the way you get around those actions is by cloaking those words with other labels such as ethnic cleansing or what are some of the words for cloaking famine, like food shortages.
Could be anything.
Yeah, like
anything that doesn't begin with a G and end with an E.
Yeah. It's just it's atrocious that and something that has been in the news recently, especially, and in the media, is a lot of the stuff about going on in Gaza, and say there's no word about the G word there, and another word is that they use as well is clashes, and I don't understand how you can use clashes to describe someone shooting from one side of a fence. So if you shoot at someone who is in no possible way of hurting you, how is that a clash?
I think that it's because of the close relationship that Israel has with a lot of countries in the West, though. That's what it is like, isn't it? It's like, and they want to make sure that like it looks good on them, or they like it doesn't look bad at them, like it's not negative. Because it's funny because to be honest, I don't hear much about Israel. I think a lot of it is because it's not really like stuff that's really talked about that much.
Yeah.
But even recently, all of the reporting seems to be like very one-sided.
Yeah.
Kind of. Don't get me wrong. I think that I don't think that it should be completely one-sided in terms of like Palestine either.
Yeah, of course.
It should be balanced reporting.
Yeah, unbiased.
That's what you want. From kind of your news. Like that's why I like people like Phil DeFranco.
Yeah.
Because this is a guy that like didn't have a lot of respect for a long time because his show was quite like sensationalist. Not like in terms of like content. Well, no, it was in terms of content, like as in sensationalist because he would like look at entertainment news, but not world news. But he started to branch out more now since he's left because he was part of the Discovery Network. And he's left the Discovery Network now because like his Like the Discovery Network wanted to shut down all of his channels, so he bought back his own channel and just let them shut down the rest of his channels. But he's building a news network now with like, he hasn't launched any other channels yet, but he's like launching like a load of different. So like some are going to be focused completely on national news, like American national news. Some is going to be foreign news. Like some of it's just going to be entertainment, and he's going to get a load of different hosts and actually build a network on YouTube, which is quite exciting because it's news that is literally accessible anywhere in the world. Like other than some countries I know don't have internet access, or like obviously there are certain sites that are
controlled.
Controlled, but people are finding ways around that all the time. So it's one of those things where like, because like if you try to shut off control to like, if you give people any bit of control and then you try to shut off that control, people will find ways around it.
Yeah.
Like, and it's happening all the time. So like it's a positive thing, because in countries where maybe the news is a bit more one-sided.
Yeah.
Like, not all countries, because some countries are just completely closed off.
Yeah.
Like, as in we don't even know much about them, like places like North Korea. But as in a lot of countries, like even just parts of the US where people aren't like that well informed. Like they're getting news, which obviously it is obviously biased news in some regard, because I don't think there is news that is unbiased. Yeah. Like I think even companies like Vice, which used to be like
hailed as unbiased.
They are like have kind of like gone to crap a bit, like in recent times. Like they still have good presenters and good segments and good documentaries, but I don't know, it's like ever since Trump was elected, I feel like a lot of news places have chosen a side.
But then again, I think that the best way to get away from some of those unbiased are to move away from Western news channels. Yeah. So that's why.
Yeah, because you were talking about that with your course.
So for a lot of our courses, what I would follow is Al Jazeera. Yeah. So I find Al Jazeera amazing for news because it reports on global news and it reports fairly unbiased, I would like to think.
Where's Al Jazeera based?
That's a great question, and I'm not entirely sure.
Okay, yeah.
I actually really don't know. It's probably something I should know.
No, it's fine, man.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness, the fact that you don't know where it's based is almost kind of good in a sense, because it means that like you can't tell 100% like that there's
like say
one country with their fingers.
So like say for Vice News, which like would have been considered unbiased, you always knew that it was based in America, with offshoots for other places. Yeah. And then say for like even neutral countries don't have neutral news. So say RTE can often be quite biased. Yeah. And then a lot of their programs, as anyone who watched the Claire Byrne debate saw that
what actually happened with that, because
it's just toxic.
It's because I've been seeing so much stuff on Twitter about it.
So basically,
I didn't watch it, like, and I don't know what it's about.
A supposedly balanced debate turned into an absolute shit show. Yeah. Do you want to talk about that more? Because I didn't watch the entire thing, and I didn't watch a whole pile of it. But what I've seen of the comments on it are pretty like.
It was just horrible. Both sides were horrible. Yeah. Shouting over each other, shouting at each other, snide, mean, bitchy remarks.
Wasn't there? So yeah, this is a bit for people outside of Ireland. This is a debate about the Eighth Amendment, which is all to do with abortion not legalization, abortion rights in the Republic of Ireland. But so in a debate of that serious topic, like some of the audience resorted to cheering and booing and jeering, and it's like you're adults.
Is this a fucking football match? Like,
yeah, exactly. It turned into football hooligans.
I don't know, man. The whole debate has turned so toxic, though. Like, I feel like most reasonable conversation has just flown out the window, and now it's just like it's just. Oh,
I feel like if you're on the fence and you're listening and reading,
it's
to
impossible.
These things,
it's
you're
impossible.
going to stay on the fence.
Because there's so many lies and everything, and even like the people in my family are on the fence, and they have no idea what to do because they have no information about like what's actually what's actually real and what's not, like
the only truly unbiased thing that I've actually seen was the government publishes a report on the referendum, and it literally just says what the referendum will do and what it will not do, and that is the only thing that I didn't see with any bias.
Yeah.
Well, that backfired because one side decided to
Yeah.
make their booklet look exactly,
exactly
the
the
same
same.
as the official
Yeah.
booklet.
Yeah, that's another thing that did happen. Yeah.
But one side in particular is receiving incredible amounts of funding from the US.
Yeah.
Like we're talking I want to say in the millions. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Like it's so much so that who passed, was it Google banned?
Facebook banned.
Yeah, so Facebook banned basically foreign so non-Republic of Irish funding for online ads on its platform within the Republic because such money was being pumped into one side of the debate from outside the outside of the Republic.
I think that like being on either side, like I don't necessarily like. I think that like hating people on like either side is kind of like
Pointless.
it is pointless. But I think that the people that are really causing the problems are just anyone that's like resorting to like insults and
so
falsities
even like so
to make their point.
I would be on one side pretty much definitively,
Yeah.
but I would say that the people who cut down either side's posters or the people who shout down debate or ignore debate or do not engage in debates, you're the problem.
Or people that spread lies, man.
Yeah, well, yes,
It's
lies
been
are a big
problem,
thing
like,
in
yeah.
this because it's such an emotional topic. Lies have such an emotional impact that you can walk away from something not knowing if it's true or not, but it doesn't matter because that emotional feeling that you got from hearing it lingers. So it's the spreading of falsities and the use of like sheer emotional response is like insane.
Yeah.
And like there are people who are going after like basically so that in Ireland a lot of schools are faith run. Well, some schools are.
Yeah, it's become less.
Yeah, it has become less.
Like since the generation of like Christian brothers and nuns has started to like retire.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's kind of, it has become less and less. As in like when I started primary school back in the day, there were like 5 brothers I think there, because I went to a Christian brother school.
Yeah.
By the time I left, there was 1 left.
Yeah.
So it's that type of thing of like that generation started to pass now, and I think that people of our generation are being able to see more clearly than ever.
But
well, I think I've met more young people who would be voting against the referendum than for it.
Have you?
Yeah, definitely. I still have more friends voting for a yes vote, but a lot voting for a no.
Yeah.
Which I was very surprised to see.
I'm surprised at that actually. I'm very surprised. I haven't heard anyone, like no one that I really know is kind of on the like. Well, I don't know. I think that a lot of people.
But see,
I'm in arts. I'm in an arts degree. Yeah. So it's different. Like as in, like especially in UCC, like one thing that I don't necessarily agree with all the time, even though I am a liberal, is that like the agenda in a lot of courses in UCC is quite liberal.
But see, like, another thing that I would say is that because the debate is so toxic, no one actually wants to talk about which way they're voting. True. So if you almost identify yourself or you align yourself with one campaign, like you're often excluding that conversation ever occurring with someone on the other side because people just don't want to get into this toxic argument, which has, case in point, destroyed families, friendships, and like professional relationships, definitely within Ireland.
Well, some people won't talk to you if you're voting one way or the other.
Like even
I don't know.
We literally we were getting ice cream today, and walking back from the shop, there was literally 2 people just arguing on the street.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah.
Man.
One wearing a repeal jumper, and the other having a rake of vote no or live, love both. I was about to say live both. It doesn't really make sense.
I have no idea what's going to happen after the election ends, though.
There's going to be a lot of emotion.
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of emotion no matter what happens.
Highly emotional vote.
Yeah.
Highly emotional because people have gone through it themselves. Yeah. And people are having debates about where life begins, and life is a highly emotive topic.
Yeah.
Like it's difficult for me because just a little bit of background. Before studying in this course, I was qualified as an EMT or emergency medical technician, and so in that we do a lot about obviously a lot of medical training. It's akin to paramedics in the UK, But so obviously I'm trained to deliver children, but the issue with that is we're given a very strict set of rules when it comes to the delivery of the baby and the priorities of your patients. And in so much as the Irish paramedics, well, I'll give you the correct term. So it's FEC, which is the Pre-Hospital Emergency Care Council, and they determine your rule books of how you act and proceed as a paramedic or an EMT, and they define it as you have one patient up until the moment of birth, and at the moment of birth, then you get a second patient to deal with. But you have to prioritize your first patient, and that's to the detriment of literally everything else. So it's odd seeing that in our constitution, an unborn has the right to life, when medically I cannot give the right to life.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot adhere to our constitution,
It's
which
quite
is
a catch-22.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But
yeah, that's why these facts that the people from the No campaign put up are quite interesting, because they take direct quotes from the Constitution.
Yeah.
But in practice,
it
doesn't relate to situations that have already occurred and will occur and are still occurring.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's what is on writing from the Constitution that was made in near enough to prehistoric days is not the same as now, and what will be in the future. I mean, I'm quite biased on this issue. I can't help but be biased.
Yeah, of course. Well, frankly, it directly affects you.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a woman. I'm 20 years old. I mean, I'm sexually active, as most young people my age are. This directly affects me and will continue to affect me and my sister's lives.
Yeah.
Yeah, it affects my sister's life too.
Yeah.
So,
and
she
then,
even messaged me about like voting and stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Which was like normally I would get annoyed at people for like pushing their like vote this way, vote that way on you, but with stuff like that, I can completely understand, because like it could affect her, and it will affect her in the future, more than likely. And it's like, and I don't know, it's like, see, like I don't want this to be like biased completely one way.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that, you know, we're all on
one side,
the yes side of the vote, like, you know, but like, because I don't know, like I don't agree either with people that like completely villainize the no side, because I don't know, it's like,
in fairness, up until quite recently, I wouldn't have voted yes.
Yeah.
Because through personal like events that have happened in my family previous, like I don't think myself, my family, or my mother specifically could have imagined the thought of giving up a baby, seeing as before I was born she had lost another. And I think always the thought of that, why would you give up something that someone else had lost?
Yeah.
But I don't think that people have the right to choose other people's past for them.
Yeah. I agree with that. No,
because
I
at the
agree
end
with
of
that.
the day, it isn't about abortion.
Yeah.
It is literally about choice.
Yeah.
And a woman's choice over her own future and her body, more importantly. There has been years of oppression of women and of women's choices. And that just needs to stop.
Yeah. Like I think one thing that isn't quite clear in this referendum is that this referendum will not legalize abortion. What it will do is it will decriminalize it from the Constitution and sever it from our Constitution, so it will instead be placed in the hands of lawmakers. So it becomes more flexible to change with coming things.
Yeah.
And somehow we got absolutely trapped in
the third world to the referendum.
Well, it's all about media.
Yeah, it's a topic I've stayed away from like not just in the podcast. I mean, in life in general, because like I think it's quite a, like, to be honest with you, the most in-depth conversation I've had about it was with a person voting no like 9 or 10 months ago,
Mm-hmm.
and it was more over their kind of hesitancy to like talk about it in public because
Yeah.
they were like scared about, because like this guy was like, it was for kind of religious reasons.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, he might have changed his opinion at this point, because I don't know, it's been 10 months, like, because even I was never on the fence, but I was more sympathetic to the no side until I started to see some of the stuff on social media, and that made me angry, kind of, which is like, anger is like a powerful tool. I think that like that's what this referendum has done. It's just made everyone angry, and I just hope that like afterwards people can just come back together and like we can become like one society again, because society is like split down
It's
at the moment, like.
I would definitely say that the media has split our society.
It's
right
like
now.
it's like in America now with like Trump being elected. Like I think that the country, like America, has been probably the most broken it's been for like
a very long
the
time.
last 20 years, I'd say.
It
And
just
it's crazy.
shows that development can be good and it can be bad.
Yeah.
You can develop backwards.
Oh yeah, of course you can, yeah.
But obviously the best development is forwards.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're going to start to wrap up the podcast because we're almost at the hour mark. So is there anything you want to add at the end?
Media is bad, but I guess it can be helpful. To be honest, if getting back to our like almost original point, which is probably like 5 minutes in, but it's come like pretty much full circle.
It has, yeah.
But if media was used to portray the positive steps that were occurring instead of the negative, then I think that we would be a lot further on with the SDGs than we are. And I think that there would be a lot less conflict in the world, and our job would be a lot easier, which is also like kind of crap, because the world going to shit is literally how I think we plan to make money.
But like, people are media.
Yeah.
So we can influence the media, and people just let the media, as in the people sitting in desks behind computers, writing up articles and stuff like that, they just let them do whatever. And, you know, people can influence the media, so do.
I think regardless, though, I think with how the world's connected now, it's more positive than it would be if it wasn't, because there's more of an opportunity for you to get your voice out there.
Yeah, well,
than ever, like,
even say even if you just take the bracket of young people, if young people do unite, we stand a way better chance of actually making a difference on social media and through the media than we do if the individuals, young people, are like in every country did something.
And then
like
young people run new media, like we do. As in like YouTube, if you look at like the 10 biggest channels, they're all run by people under the age of 30. Yeah, like they're all people that were born in the internet age. So it's only gonna we're only gonna get more control as time goes on. You know, it's just one of those things. Like,
and I think another big indicator of that is that you can see that the older that leaders get, the more I want to say distance away from the greater distance their policies have with the actual opinions of young people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, man, you can even see in countries like Saudi Arabia with the new prince, like he's made it legal for women to drive in that country. Yeah, which is like that's a crazy step for that part of the world. Yeah, you know, but that just shows that like it's only going to keep getting more. Yeah, like that. As in,
we hope so.
We hope so.
God, we hope so.
It's a small step, but it's positive. It's a very small positive step, I think.
As long as it's positive, that's
positive is most definitely better than negative.
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing this podcast has established.
What about if you have like some sort of disease? You don't want to be positive in that. Just negative.
A way to bring it down.
To bring it down.
That's what I do. That's what this podcast does. Just brings everyone down. So, brings everyone down to the level of the Fish and Chip podcast, and that's what the goal of this show is.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure being on. I hope to be on again.
I've been your special guest, Spork.
Spork.
Thank you for having me.
Definitely not Spock. I've been your guest host, Vinegar, and it's been a pleasure.